Hey, it is Wine Wednesday. It is a little late. I am trying to get the camera straight here. This is Recovering Cinderella, and I am having a little bit of a technical difficulty with the camera here, but I'm gonna try to get it straight. So I hope you guys are enjoying warm weather where you are. I am in the Midwest, and it is really warm and beautiful today. We got our first taste of warmer weather. It was in the mid 70s, early 80s today, and I am ready for the warmer weather. I love spring and everything's starting to bloom, and so I'm excited. I know that there's a blizzard warning coming later this week for parts of the United States, so hoping that everyone's gonna miss that and they get some of the warmer spring weather and flowers starting to bloom. So this is Recovering Cinderella, and I popped on here tonight to tell you a little bit. I just posted my newest blog, and it is all about the original Recovering Cinderella, Virginia. And I would like a chance just to share with you a little bit about Virginia and the reason that I chose to share her story. So Virginia was actually my great-grandmother, and growing up, she passed away when I was in junior high, before I was old enough to ask a lot of questions. So over the years, I heard stories, and actually the last couple of weeks, I've done a lot of research trying to piece together what I can. There's not really anyone left alive that can tell me what actually happened, but based on what I found out, I have a pretty good idea. So Virginia was born in Kentucky back in the early 1800s, and when she was probably 13 or 14 years old, as was common back then, she got married. And she married the son of the richest man in town, whose father happened to be the judge in town. So he owned a lot of the land in town and was the judge, her father-in-law. So as was common at the time, she probably had her children fairly quickly upon getting married, and I know she had 2 sons and a daughter, but it seems that her husband had a little bit of a problem. He had a habit of beating her pretty severely, and from what I understand, he beat her to the point that she didn't think that she was going to make it through another beating. So she went to her father-in-law, the judge, and said, asked him to give her a divorce. And keep in mind, this is back in the early 1900s. Divorce was not very common. It wasn't accepted. And she told her father-in-law that basically he was going to beat her until he killed her. And her father-in-law said that he would give her a divorce. However, she had to leave town, and she had to leave town with nothing, including no money, and she had to leave her kids behind. So I don't know exactly what happened. I can guess that he probably beat her again to the point that she realized she wouldn't make it through another beating. And so in the early 1900s, she was granted a divorce. Now, she had no family around. She didn't have any money. She was pretty isolated. And the one thing that she did have was her ability to cook. And that is what I remember about my great-grandmother. She was an incredible cook. She was a Southern cook, if you know what that means. So my favorite thing that she made was chicken and dumplings, and she would roll the dumplings out, and she would have this broth simmering all day, and the dumplings, she would hand cut them, and they would be all over the house drying, and then she would drop them into the broth, and that was my absolute favorite dish. And whenever I think of my great-grandmother, I think of that chicken and dumplings. But what I didn't realize until not long ago was how critical that skill set was to her survival. So she had no money, she had no friends, she had no family, and she had to get out of town. So the only thing that she could do was to barter for what skill set she had, which was cooking. So whether it was by riverboat or by train, she somehow managed to pay for her transport west by earning her keep as a cook. And she moved west from Kentucky to Missouri, where she ended up settling in Independence, Missouri. And she met my great-grandfather. And she ended up getting remarried and having 3 more children, including a set of twins, which was highly unusual back in the early 1900s as well. So all of this being said, as I think through my own challenges in going through divorce and all the struggles that I had and all of the things that I felt could break me, I think about what my great-grandmother went through and, you know, how she had to create this whole new life for herself with very little resources other than her own stubbornness, quite honestly, which I think I inherited from her, and her determination that she was not going to settle for dying at the hands of her husband who beat her. That was not going to be how she ended her life. She was not going to accept that. And so she did whatever she had to do to get out of that situation and create a new life for herself. And even though that life came at an incredible price, she had to leave behind her children, she was able to build a new life and a happy life. Now, I know in her later years, she actually reconnected with her children. Her daughter actually moved to Kansas City in her adult years, and I know she had a relationship with her mom, and I know she reconnected with at least one of her sons. But I know that was always bittersweet. I mean, she had to make that decision to live. So when I think about my great-grandmother, and I think about the fact that we all have this innate ability within ourselves to create and change our circumstances, no matter how bad they seem and no matter how limited our resources seem. We have the ability to create a new life for ourselves. And that is the hope that I want to share with all of you women struggling right now, going through a divorce, is that you have the ability to change your life. You have whatever skills, whatever abilities that you have or gifts that you have the opportunity to create a life that you want. So when I think about my great-grandmother, I wonder what stories my own great-grandchildren will tell about me and what legacy that I will leave behind. And hopefully it will be one of determination and a willingness to turn pain into something else and to rise above it. And that my divorces didn't define me. In fact, they helped me create a better life. So the blog is on my website, recoveringcinderella.com. I will post a link here on this page. I also am launching 2 new online courses. They are not going to be live until April 30th. The first one is for women who are just starting the divorce process. So maybe you've used the D word for the first time and you actually realize that this is a possibility and you're overwhelmed and you don't know where to start and what you can do or what you need to be doing. Or maybe you are already through the process or you're working through the process and you want to create a new life, but you don't even know where to start. So I know it's one of those things where when you're going through divorce, people are very quick to say, well, just start a new life. Go ahead. You know, you can do anything you want. But the practicality of that is, what steps do you take to create a new life? And how do you figure out what that new life looks like? And there's a lot of things in that process. So I have 2 new courses. The first one is basically how do you navigate the divorce process itself. The second one is how do you create a life you love after divorce? And there's practical advice, there's steps you can take, there's activities that I will guide you through to help not only figure out what it is you want out of a new life on your own, but how you take steps to build that life. So those are both on pre-order right now. They will be live on April 30th. If you or someone you know is interested in either one of those courses, I am offering a 50% discount until Friday. If you use until this Friday, you use the discount code RCFB13. So RCFB13. That code will be valid until this Friday to get 50% off the courses, either one. So feel free to share that with your friends or people that you know that could benefit from it. And we've got some exciting things coming down the pipeline. This is the first of a couple of other things that I'm working on. And I'm just really excited to see this community grow. I'm working on new opportunities to be able to connect women together to support each other through their divorce process. And I'm looking forward to be able to connect with you more. So I hope you have a great evening. I hope you have an awesome week. Enjoy this weather. And I hope you think about what legacy that you're going to leave behind and what kind of life you're going to create after your divorce. Have a good night.